The house is at the end of a single-track road 2 miles past the last farm gate, and she misses the turning the first time because the sign for the drive is laid flat in the grass. White painted iron, with the lettering picked out in black, the name of the house in a serif that belongs to the wrong century. She reverses 200 yards along the verge, finds the gap in the hedge, and turns in. The drive is long. She has time to register that it has been recently re-gridded along its full length, that the trees on either side are mature beech in November color, that the lawn beyond them is mown in 2 directions, and that the house, when it appears around the final curve, is larger than she had expected from the fee. It is gray stone, 2 stories with attic dormers, a slate roof, 12-paned sash windows symmetrical on either side of a black painted front door, a Georgian frontage onto an asymmetric older body behind. There is 1 car on the gravel, a dark green estate, washed. There is no other vehicle. There is no dog. There is no one at the door. She parks behind the estate car and switches the engine off. She sits with her hands on the steering wheel for the count of 10, which is a thing she has done at the start of jobs since she was 22, because it gives her face time to settle into the face she uses for clients. She is 31. Her name is Ailsa Crombie. She tunes pianos for a living and has tuned roughly 600 of them, of which perhaps 40 have been Bosendorfers, and of those 40, 2 have been Imperials, the long ones with the extra bass keys at the low end, and she has come today to tune the 3rd. The son opens the front door before she gets out of the car. He raises a hand. He is in his mid-40s, tall, in a gray crewneck jumper and dark cords, clean-shaven, hair short and going at the temples. He waits at the door while she gets her case and her bag of mutes and her electronic reference tuner from the back seat. He does not come out to help. She likes that. The ones who come out to help always also stand too close in the room afterwards. "Miss Crombie," he says when she reaches the door. His handshake is dry and brief. "Thank you for coming all this way. I'm Henry Lassiter. We spoke on the phone." "We did," she says. "It's in the music room. I'll show you through, and then I'll leave you to it." The hall is wide, flagstoned, cold in the November way that stone houses get cold without you noticing until you are in your 5th hour of it. There is a long case clock against the right-hand wall, ticking pendulum, visible behind a small beveled glass door. She glances at the dial as she passes. 20 past 2. Her phone, in her coat pocket, said 20 past 2 when she turned the engine off. The clock is correct to the minute. He leads her past the foot of a staircase and to the left, through a paneled door into a room at the back of the house. The music room is 25 feet by 15, with 2 tall windows on the long wall looking onto a walled garden of clipped box and gravel paths, and a stone fireplace on the short wall opposite the door, unlit, the grate cold and clean. The walls are pale gray, the floor is bare oak, the acoustic is alive but not bright. A small Persian rug under a square library table by the windows softens it. There is no other furniture except 2 chairs flanking the fireplace and the piano. The piano is a Bosendorfer Imperial 290 in matte black, lid down. It stands at the center of the room with the keyboard facing the windows. It is the longest piano you can buy and one of the deepest in tone, and it has been positioned so that whoever sits at it sees, beyond the music desk, the walled garden in late afternoon light. She has tuned in some beautiful rooms in 11 years, and this is, immediately and without effort, one of the best. She takes a quiet breath in through her nose. "It's lovely," she says, "because it is, and because the sun is still standing at her elbow. My father bought it in 1998, he says. It hasn't been touched in 6 months. He died on the 15th of May. I haven't done anything in here since then. I am told it needs to be tuned and assessed before sale, and I am told you are the person to do that." "Who told you that?" she says, not turning round. "Patrick Quigley at Henderson's. He has handled my father's estate." She nods. Patrick Quigley referred her. The fee was generous and the brief was clean. 1 Bosendorfer Imperial, 6 months untouched in a stable room. Full tuning to a 440, then a written condition report. 3 hours of work, 4 with the report. She had quoted 5 to cover travel. "I'll need about 3 hours at the instrument," she says. "Then half an hour to write it up. I can give you the report by email tomorrow if you'd prefer not to wait." Tomorrow would be perfect, he says. Do you take tea? Later, she says. Thank you. Then I will be in the kitchen if you need anything. It's the door at the back of the hall, opposite the stairs. He goes. He closes the door behind him quietly, the way men close doors in houses where someone has recently died. She hears his footsteps go down the flagstones of the hall and then onto something softer. A carpet runner, presumably, and then she does not hear him. She puts her case down on the library table. She puts her bag of mutes next to it. She sets her tuning hammer, her temperament strip, her 3 rubber wedges, her felt strip, and her electronic reference unit out in their order. She switches the reference unit on, sets it to A440, sets the temperament to equal, and lays it face down on the rug beside the piano stool. She likes to work primarily by ear and to use the reference only as a check. She lifts the lid of the piano. The action is in beautiful condition. The hammers are felted evenly. No compression grooves of the kind you get on older instruments that have been played hard. The strings are bright but not new. There is no dust on the soundboard. There is no dust on the bridges. There is no dust on the pin block. The interior of this piano has been cleaned very recently by someone who knew how. She files this as a fact and does not yet do anything with it. She lifts the front panel away, sets it carefully against the wall, slides the keyboard cover back, sits down at the stool, and plays a soft chromatic from C3 up 2 octaves. The instrument speaks. It is in tune. It is not quite in tune at 440. It is fractionally flat by the kind of margin you would expect from a sealed room with stable humidity over 6 months, but it is in tune with itself. There is no string that is wandering. There is no note that has slipped. She frowns. 6 months in a Scottish house in autumn would normally pull a Bosendorfer down by more than this. She plays the same chromatic again, listening. The piano is steady. It is doing what a much better maintained piano would do. This is fine. This is good news for the client. She decides that the cleaning of the interior, which has been very recent, has probably been accompanied by a quiet inspection that she has not been told about. A courtesy from another tuner, perhaps, on a previous visit, a friend of the father's, something undocumented. She is being paid to do the formal job. She begins. She lays the temperament strip across the unisons of the middle 2 octaves, deadening the outer 2 strings of each 3-string course, so that only the central string of each note speaks. She tunes the temperament from F3, working in fifths and thirds, beating each interval to the rate she has been beating intervals at since she was 20, the rate she can no longer not hear. The reference unit on the floor stays face down. She works for 15 minutes without looking at it. It is when she is at A4, the 3rd A of the temperament, that the note moves under her ear. This is not unusual on a freshly tuned pin. Pins settle. A note set to pitch will often drift down a beat or 2 within seconds as the string equalizes along its length. What is unusual is the direction. The note moves up. It moves up by something on the order of 2 cents in the second after she sets it. She has hit it true. It rises away from true. She sets it again. She hits the key. The note speaks. She brings it back to A440 exactly. She lets the key up. She plays A4 again. The note is now at A440 plus by a touch by perhaps 1.5 cents. She picks up the reference unit from the floor and turns it over. She plays A4. The unit reads 440.8. She sets the note again with the hammer. The unit reads 440.0. She lets the key up, waits 5 seconds, plays the note again. The unit reads 440.7. She sits back on the stool. The light through the windows is the white-gray light of November at 2:30. In the borders, low even, sourceless. The room is 15 degrees Celsius. She knows it is 15 because the music room has a small dial thermometer set into the wall by the fireplace, and she looked at it when she came in, and the needle was on the 15, and it is when she looks again now, still on the 15. The string is moving against an environment that is not moving. She picks the hammer back up and resets A4. She puts the hammer down. She plays C5. C5 is at C5. She plays B4. B4 is at B4. She plays A4. A4 is at 440.6. She tries something. She tunes a 4 down by a precise amount, 2 cents below true. She lets the key up. She plays the note again. It is at 440.1. It has come up by 1.9 cents. She tunes A4 up by 2 cents above true. She lets the key up. She plays the note again. It is at 440.1. It has come down by 1.9 cents. The note is moving towards 440.1. It is not moving towards 440 exactly. It is moving towards a pitch that is fractionally above the standard she set on her reference unit, which she set herself this afternoon on the rug 18 minutes ago. She puts the hammer down on the library table. She stands up. She walks to the window. The walled garden is full of late afternoon light. There is a gardener moving along the far border, a man in a brown coat with a rake gathering leaves. He does not see her. He works steadily. She has a moment of pleasure in watching him, because the alternative to watching him is sitting down at the piano again. She watches him until he is finished with the bed he is working on. He gathers his rake and his wheelbarrow, and he leaves through a wooden door in the far wall of the garden. She is alone again. She goes back to the piano. She sits down. She does the test once more. She tunes A4 to 440 exactly with the hammer. She lets the key up. She waits 10 seconds. She plays the note. It is at 440.1, she thinks. The reference unit is calibrated to a temperature standard. The room is cold. The unit has cooled slightly. It is reading low by 1/10 of a hertz. The piano is correct. The unit is wrong. She likes this thought. She holds it. She places it carefully into the slot in her mind where the explanation has been waiting. She returns to her work. She tunes the rest of the temperament. The notes she sets stay where she sets them. A 4 is the only one that has moved, and she has decided that A4 has not moved. The reference has. She removes the temperament strip after 45 minutes and begins to set the unisons octave by octave from the middle outwards. The instrument is responsive. The pins are firm. The action is light. She is at one level beneath the level she is working at, enjoying herself. It is at 4:05 when she has reached the upper octaves and is setting the unisons in the 5th octave above middle C that she plays D6, the D above the staff. And the note that comes back is not D6. It is the D in a chord. It has a 5th above it and a 3rd below it, and they are not strings she has touched. They speak, they die away. The D continues to speak. She has not lifted her finger. She lifts her finger. The D dies away. She sits at the keyboard for a long count of breath. Then she plays D6 again on its own, the same key, the same pressure. D6 speaks. D6 dies away. Nothing else speaks. She tries the keys on either side. C#6, D6, D#6. They all speak singly. She tries D6 again. D6 speaks singly. She tries the F sharp above and the B below, the 3rd and the 5th of what she heard. She tries them as a chord with the D. The chord sounds, it is the chord she heard. It is also exactly what it would sound like if you had played it at the same time, which she had not. She gets up from the stool. She walks slowly around the body of the piano. She looks at the strings from above. They are at rest. No string is vibrating that should not be. The dampers are seated where they should be seated. The pedals are at rest. There is no fault she can see. The door of the music room opens. All going well, says the son. He is standing in the doorway with a tray. On the tray is a teapot, 2 cups, a small jug of milk, and a plate of plain biscuits. You said later, he says, but it's been nearly 2 hours and I thought you might have changed your mind. Thank you, she says. She has not heard him come down the hall. The flagstones in the hall do not absorb sound. She had not heard him for nearly 2 hours and now he is in the room. He sets the tray on the library table next to her case, careful not to put it on any of her tools. He pours 1 cup and pushes it towards her. He pours one for himself. How is it? He says. It's a very good instrument, she says. My father loved it, he says. He played until quite near the end. He played well? Well enough that the people who heard him said so. Not concert standard, adequate amateur. He had taken it up properly in his 50s. He was a chemist before he retired. I'm sorry for your loss, she says, because she had not said it earlier. And it is the kind of thing that you are supposed to say once, even if you do not feel qualified. Thank you, he says. He does not leave. He stands at the library table with his cup in his hand, and he looks at the piano. She drinks her tea. The tea is hot and strong, and there is a leaf in it, which means he has made it in a pot from loose leaves, which is in a kitchen at the back of a house in the borders. At 4 o'clock on a November afternoon, a kindness she would not normally remark on in a client, but she remarks on it now to herself. "May I ask you something?" he says. "Yes. My father wrote down a list of the people he wanted to be involved in the disposal of his things, in his will. Quigley showed me the list. You're on it." She puts her cup down. "I'm sorry," she says. "It's not that surprising." He had specific feelings about people he wanted handling specific items. You were the tuner he wanted for the piano. "I have never tuned this piano before," she says. "I know," he says. Quigley said the same. He said your name was on the list with the piano, and that he had no record of any previous work order from my father to your firm. "I have never been to this house." "I believe you," he says. "I'm telling you because I thought you would want to know. I don't think it requires any action from us. I am paying you to tune the piano and write a report. You are doing that. He has chosen well. I will leave you to it." He takes his cup and the teapot and goes out. He closes the door behind him quietly. She sits at the library table for some time without picking up the hammer. She picks up her phone and looks at it. There is no signal in the room. There has not been since she came in. She knew that already. She puts the phone down. She thinks. An old man wrote her name on a piece of paper at some point before the 15th of May. He had never met her. He had never paid her. He had decided that she was the person who should tune his Bosendorfer after he died. He had written this down with enough specificity that a solicitor had read it from the will and had picked up a phone to her firm and had booked the work, she thinks. There is a list with her name on it that predates her knowledge of the work. She holds that thought for a moment. She does not let it grow. She has been doing her job for 11 years, and she has been on the receiving end of strange small kindnesses from elderly clients before, posthumous and otherwise. Once a woman in Edinburgh left her a tea caddy. Once a man in Penicuik left her a tuning hammer from the 1930s with a maker's mark she had asked him about. People who love instruments leave instructions about them. It is not so strange. It is not so strange. She gets up. She goes back to the piano. The piano is not where she left it. This is not a perception. This is a measurement. The piano is a Bosendorfer Imperial, 9 feet 6 inches long, on 3 casters, in a room with a bare oak floor. When she came in, the piano was centered in the room with its keyboard facing the windows. There were 4 points where the casters had pressed into the wax of the oak floor. 4 small darker circles, one under each foot and one under the lyre support of the pedals, a permanent set of marks from decades of standing in one position. When she sat at the stool an hour ago, the casters were sit in those darker circles. They are not in those circles now. The piano has moved. It has moved by about 3 inches towards the windows. The casters now sit on bare oak with the 4 darker wax circles visible behind them. She stands at the side of the piano with her hand on its case. She looks down at the casters. She looks at the 4 darker circles. She looks at the casters again. The piano is a 1,000-pound instrument. It does not move by accident. It is not on a wheeled stage. It is on 3 brass casters set into the bottom of the case. She kneels down. She puts her hand on the floor next to one of the casters. The floor is cool and dry. She moves her hand across to where the darker circle is. The wax there is slightly tacky. The wax around the caster is not. The piano has moved within the last hour at most. She gets up. She walks to the door of the music room. She opens it. She steps out into the hall. The hall is empty. She walks to the back of the hall and stops at the door which the sun said led to the kitchen. She listens. She can hear the long case clock. She can hear nothing else. She does not knock. She walks back to the music room. She closes the door behind her. She sits down on the stool. She plays middle C. The note speaks. She plays D6. The note speaks. She plays a 4. The note is at 440.1. She thinks, I am going to finish the job. She thinks it very clearly. She thinks it because she is afraid, and because being afraid is not a thing she can use right now, and because doing the job is. She has been doing this job for 11 years, and her hands know the work better than her mind knows anything, and her hands will do the work whether her mind agrees or not. She picks up the hammer. She works through the unisons of the upper octaves. She does not look at the casters. She does not look at the room. She listens. She sets the pins. She moves up the keyboard. The piano stays in tune behind her. It is staying in tune so cleanly that she begins to wonder, at the back of her mind, whether the piano is being set to pitch by her hammer, or whether her hammer is being permitted to set the pitch the piano has already chosen. She does not let this thought get any further than the back of her mind. She works. It is 5:20 when she finishes the top octave. The light through the windows is now grayer, slower, going. The walled garden is dim. The gardener has not come back. She puts the hammer down. She stands up. She stretches her back. She walks the length of the piano once and then back. She plays an A major arpeggio, slow, up and down, 2 octaves either side of middle C, the way she always plays an arpeggio at the end of a temperament. The piano sings. It is in tune. It is in better tune than it was when she sat down at it. It is in tune in a way that is, she will later admit to herself, slightly too good, too even, too settled, too immediate, with none of the small settling drift you get in the first 10 minutes after a tuning. The piano is performing as though it has been freshly tuned for hours. She turns around. The son is standing in the doorway again. She had not heard him come in. "You're nearly done," he says. "I'm nearly done," she says. "Will you play it? I beg your pardon. Will you play it? Properly, now that it's tuned." My father always wanted to hear his piano played properly by the person who had tuned it. He used to ask the man who tuned it before you to play him something before he left. He felt the tuning wasn't finished until someone had played on it. "I don't play," she says, which is not true, and they both know it is not true, because no one tunes a piano to professional standard who does not also play. And she has played to a high amateur standard since she was 9. "I won't insist," he says. "Thank you, but I would be very glad if you did." She looks at him. He is standing in the doorway with one hand resting on the door frame. He is not blocking the door. He is in fact a perfectly polite distance from her. The same distance he has been at every time he has been in this room. He has done nothing to make her afraid. The piano has done nothing to make her afraid, exactly. The instrument is sound. The room is warm enough. The light is fine, she thinks. He wants me to play this piano. His father wrote my name on a list before he died. The piano was cleaned before I came. The piano has moved 3 inches towards the windows since I came. The piano has been tuning itself to a pitch 1/10 of a hertz above the pitch I have been setting. The piano has twice produced sound I did not play. She thinks, if I play, I will be the person who has played this piano after it has been tuned. She thinks, I do not know what that means. She says, I'll play one piece. Thank you, he says. She sits down at the stool. She rests her hands on the keyboard for a moment. She thinks about what to play. She is not going to play something demanding. She is not going to play anything that requires emotional commitment from her. She decides on a Bach 2-part invention, the one in F major, because it is brisk and it is clean and it requires both hands to work independently, and that will keep her mind on the keyboard rather than on the room. She begins. The piano speaks beautifully. The action is light and even. The voicing is consistent across the registers. She plays the invention through, both repeats, neatly, without showing off. When she comes to the final cadence, she lets her hands rest on the last chord for the proper length of beat, and then she lifts them off the keyboard. The chord sustains. She has not pressed the sustain pedal. The dampers should have fallen. The chord sustains. It does not die away. It holds. It is the F major chord she has just played, in the voicing she just played it in, sustained at the volume she just played it at, with no decay. She watches the strings. They are vibrating. They are not slowing. She is aware that the sun is in the doorway behind her, and that he has not moved. She is aware of her own breath. She is aware that the long case clock in the hall is striking, that it is striking the half hour, that this means it is 5:30, that she has been in this house for 3 hours and 10 minutes, that she came to tune a piano, that the piano is tuned, that she has played the piano, that the piano is now playing. She lifts her hands further from the keyboard. She places them flat in her lap. The chord continues. The chord changes. It moves very slowly, very quietly, by one note at a time, to a different chord. The F at the top stays. The C in the middle moves down to a B flat. The A in the alto moves down to a G. The F in the bass moves down to an E flat. The piano is voicing, without her hands, the second chord of the next piece she would have played if she'd had gone on playing, which is the C minor invention, the one in two voices in C minor, which she has played at the end of the F major invention since she was 13 years old, because her piano teacher in Galashiels in 1996 had paired them in her exercises and the pairing had never come out of her hands. She does not move, she does not turn around, she watches the strings. The chord changes again slowly in the patient voicing of a piano being played by no one. The first phrase of the C minor invention begins to assemble itself on the strings, one note added or moved at a time, like a piece of cloth being folded into the shape of a phrase. She hears behind her the son say, very quietly, "It hasn't done that before." She turns her head. He is still in the doorway. His face is white. His hand on the door frame has tightened on the wood. He is looking at the piano. He is not looking at her. "It hasn't done that before," he says again. "For your father," she says. "Not that I ever heard," he says. "Not that I ever heard, I am. I would have said to you when you came in if I had ever heard it do that. Did your father tell you anything about why he wrote my name on the list?" "No." "Did Quigley tell you anything?" "No," I asked. He did not know. He said only that the list had been deposited with the will in 2007 and had not been changed since. 2007, she says. Yes. She was 12 in 2007. She was at the secondary school in Galashiels. She had been having piano lessons for 3 years from a woman who lived above a chemist's on the high street, and she had been good but not exceptional. And she had not yet decided that she wanted to make her living from the instrument. There is no reason any man in this house could have known her name in 2007. The piano continues to play. It has reached the third bar of the C minor invention. It is taking the piece at her preferred tempo. It is voicing the left hand a fraction softer than the right, which is how she has always voiced it, which is not how the score asks for it to be voiced, which is a habit her teacher had marked on her exercise book in red biro and which Ailsa had ignored. The piano is playing the C minor invention the way Ailsa plays it, not the way it is written. She gets up from the stool. She does not stop the piano. She does not put her hands on the keyboard. She walks to the library table. She closes her electronic reference unit. She puts it into her case. She puts her hammer into her case. She puts her wedges and her mutes and her temperament strip into her case. She closes the case and snaps the catches. The piano plays on. It has reached the fifth bar. She puts the front panel of the piano back. She slides the keyboard cover gently down over the keys. The piano continues to play. The cover does not stop it. The hammers are striking the strings under the closed cover. The sound is fractionally muffled, but the piece continues. She picks up her case. She picks up her bag. She walks to the doorway. The son stands aside. "Mr. Lassiter," she says, "yes, I am going to leave now. I will not write the report. You will not be charged for the work. The pitch is set. The piano is in tune. Anyone who buys this instrument will get a tuned piano. That is all I can tell you." "Miss Crombie?" "Yes." "What is happening?" She looks at him. He is not the kind of man who asks that question lightly. She can see that he has not asked it before. She can see that he has been told things about this house that he has not been able to make fit, and that he had decided, before she came, that she would do her work and leave, and that he would sell the piano, and that he would never have to ask the question. She can see in the doorway that the question has now asked itself, and that he is asking it of her because there is no one else to ask. "I don't know," she says. "I don't think it matters that I don't know." "What do you mean?" "I think the piano was waiting to be tuned by a particular person. I think it has been waiting since your father died. I think it would have waited longer. I don't know who chose me. I don't know why. I think your father wrote my name down because someone or something asked him to write it down. I don't think your father was a bad man. I am not afraid of your father. Are you afraid of the piano?" "No," she says, and she finds she is not. "I am afraid of being the person who comes back to it." He looks at her. He nods once. "What should I do?" he says. "Sell it," she says. "Sell it to a buyer who is not a pianist. Sell it to someone who collects pianos as objects. Sell it to a hotel. Sell it to a museum. Don't let it be played by anyone who knows the C minor invention. Don't let anyone in this house play it. Don't play it yourself, Mr. Lassiter." "I don't play," he says. "Don't learn." She walks past him down the hall. She does not run. The flagstones are cold under her boots. The long case clock is ticking. As she passes it, she sees that the time is 5:34. The piano is still playing in the music room behind her. She can hear the C minor invention through the closed door. It is at the 7th bar, going into the 8th. She does not stop. She opens the front door. The November dusk is on the gravel. The estate car is where it was. Her own car is where she left it. She walks to her car. She opens the boot and puts her case and her bag inside. She closes the boot quietly. She walks round to the driver's side and gets in. The sun has come out as far as the front door. He stands in the doorway. He raises a hand. She raises a hand back. She starts the engine. She turns the car in 3 movements on the gravel, and she drives down the drive. In the wing mirror, she sees him close the door of the house. She drives. The single-track road runs for 2 miles back to the farm gate, and there is no one on it. She drives slowly because the road is narrow, and because her hands on the steering wheel are shaking, which she had not noticed in the music room and is noticing now. She does not stop the car. She does not pull into a passing place. She drives because driving is what is required. She reaches the farm gate. She reaches the junction with the B road. She indicates left. She waits for a tractor to pass. She turns onto the B road. The dashboard clock reads 5:51. She drives. She is 40 minutes from her house in Galashiels. She has a husband who will be home from work at 6:30. She has a child of 2 who will be at her mother's house and who will be picked up by her husband on the way home. She will be at her own kitchen table by 7. She will have a cup of tea. She will tell her husband about the day in the way she tells him about all her days, which is to say, in the abbreviated form she uses for things he does not need to know in detail. She will sleep. She will get up in the morning. She will not write the report. She is thinking all of this very clearly, very calmly, as she drives along the B road in the last of the November light. She is thinking it because she has decided, in the car, in the first mile of driving away from the house, that she is going to let this go. She is going to not look up the Lassiter family. She is going to not look up the previous tuner. She is going to not ring Quigley. She is going to not return any call from Mr. Lassiter, the son. She is going to do her job on other instruments for other clients, and she is going to live her life. She is at the outskirts of Selkirk when she realizes that she has not been able, for the last 10 minutes, to take her foot off the accelerator pedal in the way she normally would when slowing for a junction. Her foot is moving, the car is slowing, but the foot is not lifting in the way she is used to it lifting. The pedal is coming up under her foot at a rate she is not setting. The car is decelerating as she would have decelerated if she had been driving with full attention. She is not driving with full attention. She is decelerating anyway. She tries something. She presses down on the accelerator, slightly, the way you would to maintain speed through a bend. The pedal accepts the pressure. The car accelerates. She lifts off. The car decelerates. She lifts off harder. The car decelerates at the rate she has set. She tries something else. She lifts her foot fully clear of the pedal. The car continues to decelerate at the rate appropriate to the approaching junction. She watches the pedal. It is moving back upwards, slowly, as her foot moves further away from it. It is not stuck, it is following her foot. It is also moving entirely correctly for the driving situation, as though her foot were still on it. She puts her foot back on it. The pedal accepts her foot. The car continues exactly as it was going. She drives into Selkirk. She slows for the high street. She stops at the lights. She sits at the lights with her hands on the steering wheel and her foot on the brake, and she watches her hands and her foot, and she watches the lights change to green, and she watches her own foot, of its own accord, lift cleanly off the brake and move to the accelerator and press down, and she watches the car move off through the junction in the line of traffic. She has been driving for 16 years. She has driven this junction perhaps 1,000 times. She is driving it now, and she is not driving it. She does not pull over. She does not turn off the engine. She does not get out. She is in the middle of a small market town in the early evening, and she has no idea, with any certainty, who is driving the car. She thinks, the piano was being played by the piano. The car is being driven by me. The car is being driven by me the way the piano was playing the C minor invention. The piano played the C minor invention the way I play it. The car is being driven the way I drive, she thinks. When did this start? She thinks back. She tries to find the first moment in the last hour when her hands or her feet did something without her telling them to. She finds the moment in the music room when she closed her case. She remembers her hands closing the catches of the case. She remembers her hands closing them in a precise sequence. Left catch, right catch, lift, set down, pick up by the handle. It is the sequence she always uses. She had not thought about it. She had let her hands do it. Her hands had done it. She does not know whether her hands had done it because she always lets her hands do it, or whether her hands had done it because something else had asked them to. She thinks, I cannot tell. I will not be able to tell. From now on, when I do a thing without thinking about it, I will not be able to tell whether it is me not thinking about it or whether it is me not being asked. She drives. The car drives her. They drive the road to Galashiels together in the careful November evening, past the lay-by at the foot of the long hill, past the petrol station with the closed canopy, past the sign for the rugby club, into the town. She turns into her street. She parks outside her house. She switches off the engine. She sits in the car with her hands on the wheel, and she counts to 10, which is a thing she has done at the end of jobs since she was 22, because it gives her face time to settle into the face she uses for her family. She gets out of the car. She takes her case and her bag out of the boot. She walks up the path to her front door. She stops at the door. She puts the case down on the step. She puts the bag down beside it. She puts her hand into her pocket for her keys. Her hand is in her pocket. Her hand finds her keys. Her hand brings the keys out. Her hand puts the correct key into the lock. Her hand turns the key. The door opens. She stands in the open doorway. The hall of her own house is warm and smells of her own house. Her husband's coat is on the hook. Her daughter's small red Wellingtons are on the mat. Her own face, when she catches it in the mirror on the hall wall, is the face she always wears coming in. She is smiling. She has been smiling, perhaps for the last several minutes. She had not noticed. She steps inside. She closes the door behind her. Behind her, on the gravel of her front path, she has not heard a car. There is no car. There is no piano. There is only her hand letting go of the latch, the way her hand always lets go of the latch when she has come home. In the order her hand has used since she moved into this house 7 years ago, the precise and unstudied movement of a woman shutting the door of her own home, performed perfectly by no one in particular, in the small lit hall of an ordinary house in a boarder's town on a Tuesday in November at 3 minutes to 7, where her husband, hearing the door, is already calling her name from the kitchen.